Hi guys, welcome to another Road Pilgrim car review, and today we have the Skoda Octavia on review with us today. But it's not just any Skoda Octavia, because this is the new 1.0 3-cylinder turbocharged Skoda Octavia, which means it sits within category A COE, it's more affordable to buy, and I think it makes it one of the most value for money cars you can buy in the market right now, hands down. And I'll show you why later. But to kind of put the car through its paces, I think what we're going to do today is we're going to take a look at the exterior styling, which honestly is not a lot different from the previous version, the 1.4 litre version. We're going to jump inside and take a look at the cabin, but most importantly, we're going to take it for a drive to see whether its Cat A status now has kind of affected the way that it feels, which I think is the most important aspect of people considering the Cat A Skoda Octavia 1.0. So without any further ado, let's go. Okay, so this is the exterior of the Skoda Octavia 1.0. So as you can see, not a huge lot of difference. But if you're not so familiar with the Skoda brand and you haven't really been keeping track of their status, I think you will realize that there's a huge difference in terms of styling. When you consider this and when you consider Skoda Octavias from a couple of years ago maybe. And I think the biggest difference is actually how the styling has all kind of come together. So in the past, your rear lights, rear headlamps, they felt like a bit of an afterthought. I think, you know, a bit weird in design, a bit squarish. But these ones, these are a lot nicer, as you can tell. It's a lot more sculpted, a lot sleeker, and they all come together quite nicely. Going around the side, these wheels, these standard wheels on the 1.0 are 18 inches, but I think, as usual, if you know me, 19 inches is better. So if you are willing to go a little bit higher in terms of size, you will probably get a nicer looking car. But keep in mind, this is a 1.0, so it will affect your performance a little bit. And I think if you're in a market for a car like that, you probably do have fuel economy at the back of your mind. You probably want to prioritize it as well, so perhaps not the best option on a car like that. Down the front, this is the front fascia. Pretty standard looking car. I think it looks quite contemporary, perhaps. Maybe not as stylish as a Golf, I feel, but overall, it looks like a very mature car. So if you are looking for, you know, if you're a young couple with kids and you want something continental, and you don't really want to go down the Japanese Korean route, I think this is a really good starting point for a continental car, because I think it looks well built, it looks very sturdy, and it does have some styling accents that, you know, are quintessentially continental in that sense. And I think it's a very good building ground or a good platform to start, you know, upgrading your car. If you know, for example, you want bigger wheels, you want to black out certain trims, you know, you maybe want to de-chrome the car. I think this is a really good starting point. But aside from that, I don't think the appearance of the Octavia is the main draw of the car. And in fact, I think the main draw of the car is its practicality combined with its actually what I think is a very good driving dynamic. So one of the key things is that this car is actually a fastback and not really a sedan. So what you see now, it kind of looks like a sedan, right? But when I open the boot, it is amazing. So it's got an epic loading area. So this is really comfortable for you to load any sort of items. It's probably more practical than a standard sedan because the loading aperture is quite a lot bigger. And we got this massive boot. I can't remember exactly how many liters this is, but I don't think you really need to bother because this is a good amount. This is comparable with many mid-size or even larger sedans, to be very honest. And I think this will be able to carry all sorts of things like car seats, strollers, shopping trolleys, luggage for road trips, you name it, this car can do it. So I think this is probably one of the highlights of the car, and this comes with an automatic tailgate as well. So very useful. It's kind of raining outside, so I'm gonna go jump into the car now, hide out from the rain, and show you what the cabin of the Skoda Octavia looks like. Let's go. Alright, so this is the cabin of the Skoda Octavia, and it is an entry-level car, but it is not built like an entry-level car. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is that it is actually really well built for an entry-level car. And it's not just bare bones as well. There are a lot of little bits and pieces that feel like there have been some thought put into the design of the car, that make you feel like you are in a car that is perhaps not so much entry level, but actually almost really kind of mid-range. And I think in this regard, I feel like the Skoda actually does a little bit better than Volkswagen. Of course, they're all, you know, under the same umbrella group, but I do feel that where Volkswagen have gone with simplicity, cleaner is better, less is more, the Skoda brand has kind of taken, you know, the approach of dressing up the car a little bit, which I think some of the consumers will really appreciate. To start things off, on the dash right here and all the way across to behind the infotainment unit, you get this dash that is covered in sort of like an Alcantara suede kind of material. I'm not sure if it's real Alcantara, but it is pleasant to touch nonetheless. The infotainment unit that you see here is also nice and large, quite pretty to look at actually. And it is true here that you will find all your climate control settings, infotainment settings, vehicle settings as well. So right now actually we've turned on some of the vehicle settings, and we are able to see some of the statistics from the car. And there are also nice little graphics here and there, so it's actually pretty cool. And through this system, you also are able to adjust things like your driving modes, which are also accessible through a direct button here. So there are some shortcuts here that allow you to go from Eco, Normal, Sport. There's also a custom mode for you, which is very nice because most of the time in an entry-level car, you do not get things like a custom mode. Climate control, there's also a shortcut here, and most of the buttons here that you see are all very neatly laid out and very straightforward, so not confusing, quite intuitive to use. This center console is also styled quite a little bit, and I think the aircon vents are quite pretty. Generally, I do prefer the aircon vents are a bit higher up in the dashboard rather than lower down, but I don't think that's a deal breaker. Further down inside here, which I'm sorry you can't really see, there is a wireless charging pad along with two USB-C ports, which of course in today's day and age I think all these things are quite important, but nonetheless I'm still pretty impressed that an entry-level car would have these features. And then further down you have your drive selector, which I think is probably one of the nicer looking drive selectors in the market actually. It's got this very nice metal finish, aluminium finish, or whatever you may call it. It's got a very nice clear large park button, and it's actually very presentable. Got two nice size cup holders here. You've got center storage. So all in all, very practical. You've got door bins on this side as well, and the door bins are actually lined with felt, much like what you will find on a Volkswagen as well. So I think those ergonomics have been kind of carried over to the Skoda, which I think is excellent. So basically the benefit of having this is that you won't have any rattling sounds when you put harder objects in your door bin. Right in front of you, you have a digital driver's display. Temperature gauge and fuel gauge is actually not technically digital, but the rest of it is, and honestly you won't even be able to tell that the side gauges are not digital. The multifunction steering wheel here is actually quite nicely designed, and it even has these roller selectors where you can select different parts of your menu. Yeah, you can adjust different parts, displays in your menu, sorry. Yeah, so of course you've got range, you've got your average consumption, speed is always in the middle. You can choose a more traditional round dial that's displayed. So all that is pretty cool. So in line with what you would expect from a car like that. But aside from the front cabin being quite impressive, I think the real party trick of this car is actually in the back, because it is, like I said, probably one of the best value cars in Cat A at the moment. So let's go jump in the back and find out exactly how much space we have. Okay guys, so this is the back of the Skoda Octavia, and it's a rather simple cabin here at the back, but it is solid where it matters. And what do I mean? First and foremost, this is the amount of legroom that I have. Mind you, this is a Cat A car, entry level, and this is the amount of legroom that I have. I'm 175 meters tall. This driver's seat is actually set to my driving position, and this is the amount of legroom that I have. So if you are a smaller size driver, you are likely going to achieve even more legroom in the back. And you know, this amount of space is going to be comfortable for most adults. Headroom, in my most upright seating position like that, I have about maybe 2 cm of headroom, which as long as it doesn't hit my head, that's good. If I'm sitting in a more natural position, a more slouchy position, I've got easily about 7-8 cm, maybe 6 cm of headroom. So all in all, very good. There's also not much protrusion from the side panels here, so it doesn't really affect your headroom. And you also have aircon vents here. These do not have a dedicated temperature or climate control, but so they will follow whatever temperature has been set at the front. But nonetheless, presence of aircon vents or real aircon vents in Singapore is of course very welcome. I think it's one of the favorite features of people. And this cabin and this rear is actually very family ready as well. If you're thinking of buying the Skoda Octavia for use as a family car, if you've got young kids, I think this is wonderful because you also have ISOFIX points here, very easily accessible ISOFIX points. And they actually are the sort that just sort of flip up rather than being removable, which is something that I quite like, because then you don't run the risk of losing them, which happens a lot with those ISOFIX clips that you have to remove altogether. So if you combine these three things, good legroom, good headroom, actually that's 4 things lah. Good headroom, aircon vents at the back, and ISOFIX points. This car is super ready to take on the needs of a young family. And with that, I think there's just one last thing to do, which is to drive the car and see how it feels on the road. So let's go and get that done. Alright, so now we are up on the roads in the Skoda Octavia 1.0, and it's a nice rainy day, nice and cooling, but of course I'm not sure whether the raindrops will affect the noise a little bit. But anyway, driving on the roads in the Skoda Octavia 1.0, and I must say that it is quite a rewarding experience to be in this car. I think the first thing you kind of realize or notice is how settled the car feels. And this is an entry-level car, but in no way do you feel like you are in the entry-level car once you are on the road, which is pretty remarkable because there is just so much value that is packed into this car. With regards to driving dynamics, it is probably not the most dynamic car to handle, and if you are looking for something that is a little bit more agile, a little bit more sharp and direct, I think the Volkswagen Golf might be perhaps a better option. And if you're interested to check out our review of the Volkswagen Golf, which is now also available in Cat A, you can click on this icon here, and it will bring you to the review. You can watch that and compare the two cars. Of course, that's a little bit more expensive, but it does give you a little bit of a different driving dynamics. But back to the Skoda Octavia, this car feels like a very settled car, and it feels way more mature than what its price tag would indicate. So currently now, the car retails for between 160 plus to 180 plus thousand in Singapore, and this is depending on the trim level that you select, but both options will run the same 1 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged engine, and this is good for about 109 brake horsepower, 200 Newton meters of torque. But personally, I kind of feel like all these numbers are a bit misleading, because when you are actually driving the car, the car actually feels way more powerful, way more responsive, and I think this is in large part due to the 7-speed dual clutch that is fitted in the Skoda Octavia and is also fitted throughout most of the Volkswagen Group range. So that transmission I think is wonderful, always seems to be in the right gear, and I think when applied to a smaller engine like that, works very well around town because it's very quick to upshift for economy. But at the same time, if you want a bit of performance and you want to drag out the revs a little bit, it is the transmission is also quite intuitive in the sense where it will hold your revs quite readily. But I do feel that this car is probably even better suited for long distance cruising, which interestingly we actually had the opportunity to do a while back. So some weeks ago we actually drove a bunch of Cat A Volkswagen and Skoda cars up to the Zaru. We took a very long scenic route and we were going at much higher speeds than what we would be going in Singapore. But even then, I must say, of all the cars that we tried, so we actually drove cars like the Golf, the Skoda Scala, the T-Cross, and of course the Octavia. And I must say that the Octavia did wonderfully. I think it was one of the most settled cars among the whole bunch, and provided the most stability on higher speeds. So I think that was something that we were all very impressed with. If you're interested to see the video of that particular trip, you can click here for the video link. Back to reality now, back to real time now. If you compare all these things that the Skoda Octavia offers, so first and foremost, you've got a nice small engine with a very responsive transmission that makes it very suitable for city driving because you get quite a bit of economy out of the car. And then if you combine this with the fact that its setup and its chassis also allows it to be a very comfortable long distance cruiser, then it's actually a very compelling case that the Skoda Octavia is probably one of the most well-rounded Cat A cars in the market right now. And then if you top it off with the fact that it has such immense levels of practicality, which I showed you earlier, and this car actually feels like a much larger sedan. Like if you really if you make me close my eyes, I might not exactly be able to tell whether or not this is Octavia or whether this is like a Passat, which is like supposed to be a bigger car. And there's just so much value for the consumer. So I think to kind of sum it all up, and also because it's like raining like crazy, so I think to kind of sum it all up, if you are after a car in category A COE and you want something that's economical, practical, and drives well, I don't think you could do much better than the Skoda Octavia 1.0 at the current moment. I don't think there's another car that kind of rivals it at this price point. Of course, I think the Golf is probably a more dynamic car to drive, but that is a tiny bit more expensive. So if you look at the base trim of the Skoda Octavia, and that retails at about 160,000+, what you are comparing the car against are a whole bunch of maybe Japanese and Korean Cat A cars, which honestly, in terms of build quality, driving dynamics, and overall feel, the amount of car you get, it's got nothing on the Skoda Octavia. So I think in this current time and space, this is probably the Cat A car to buy if you are considering something that will serve not just you but also your family and to be used as a general family car. I think it's extremely great value. If you have more questions about the car, if you are you are unsure about certain aspects of the car and you want to find out more, do drop your questions in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to answer them. If you have found this video useful in any way, or if you have enjoyed watching this video review, please remember to give this video a like and please subscribe to the channel because we've got new reviews out every single week, so it would be wonderful if you could join us on all those reviews as well. If not, please, as usual, please stay safe, take care of yourself, and we will see you next time.